You want to go round one with the Rapster? Get over here! Hey everyone, this is Rabbitearsblog and welcome to my in-theater movie review series. So today's movie I'll be reviewing today is the new Mortal Kombat movie. And before I get into my thoughts about this movie, here are a few words from the channel. Alright everybody, it's time to get on the social media train. Want to chat with me in 100 words or less? Then check out my Twitter account. Want to talk about movies, TV shows, and video games within the group? Then check out my Facebook account. Want to check out some of my ultra cool fan art? Then check out my DeviantArt page. Want to get the lowdown on everything that's happening on this channel? Then check all of the above. And now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. So the movie starts off with a young MMA fighter named Cole Young, who ends up losing a lot of his matches and is having a hard time trying to provide for his family, until one day he ends up being approached by this guy named Jax, who tells Cole about how he's being chosen to become one of Earth's greatest champions in order to fight off in the battle called Mortal Kombat, and they had to go up against Shang Tsu's forces in order to defend Earth from his army. So what are my thoughts about Mortal Kombat? Well, before I get into my thoughts about this movie, I like to talk about my history with the franchise. To be honest, I never really played a lot of Mortal Kombat games when I was growing up. Like, I played like maybe 1 or 2 Mortal Kombat games growing up, and one of those games was Mortal Kombat vs. DC. So I didn't really know much about these characters going into this film, and so I was hoping that the film was going to explain these characters to me and explain about the world they live in, just so I could get brushed up on my history with Mortal Kombat and understand these characters in the movie setting. And I have to say that the movie doesn't quite do all that, but I'll get more into detail with that later. For now, let's talk about what I did like about this movie. So one of the things that I did like about this movie was the fact that they actually introduced a lot of the characters from the Mortal Kombat franchise. So you have characters like Sonya Blade and Jax and Kano come into this movie, and you get to see these characters fleshed out as live action characters. And I really like the fact that this movie tried to be as faithful to the games as they can. Like, we have a lot of gory violence, which is what the franchise was well known for, and I like the fact that there's a lot of gory violence in this movie. And then of course you have the characters themselves, like Sonya Blade and Jax, making their appearances in this movie, so it doesn't feel like we're watching an in-name only adaptation of Mortal Kombat, which I like. And another thing that I really liked about this movie were the action sequences. I think this movie had really good action sequences. Like, you see a lot of martial arts fighting between all the characters, and I like how that was done throughout this movie. And of course, my favorite part of this movie was the gory violence. As I stated before, Mortal Kombat was well known for having a lot of gory violence, especially with the fatality moves with the characters. And you see characters ripping each other apart, and you see lots of blood and gore throughout the franchise. So I like the fact that the movie maintained all that gory violence without toning down anything, because that was something I've wanted to see from the Mortal Kombat movies for a long time, was to see more gory action and violence from these characters, because that's what the video game franchise was well known for. And then I also like the fact that they have some catchphrases from the characters. Like, you have the "get over here" line in this movie, so that was really great to hear that line in this movie. Now, here are some problems that I do have with this movie. First off, it was the lack of character development throughout this film. Like I mentioned before, I went into this movie not knowing a lot about the Mortal Kombat franchise, and I was hoping that this movie was going to explain these characters to me, but the movie didn't really do a good job with explaining any of these characters. Like, we may know a bit of a backstory with Sonya Blade and Jax, and a bit with Liu Kang, but other than that, we don't really get a good insight to these characters. Like, we don't know what's going on in their minds, we don't know much about their backstories other than the ones that's being provided to us, and I feel like there's more to these characters than what the movie's given us, and the movie didn't really give us all the fleshed out details we needed to know about these characters. So I was left a bit lost with some of these characters, and I just didn't know what to expect with these characters. Like, I wanted to learn more about these characters than what the movie gave us, but we didn't know that much about these characters, so they felt a bit flat to me. And then another issue I had with this film was that the story felt a bit empty to me. Like, it felt like that they were trying to build up to a lot of plot points in this movie, but then they just kind of drop it, or they just went with a standard, all these characters are fighting each other. And that's what this movie basically is that it's just basically the characters fighting each other. Like, there's not a lot of character development. Sure, you do have some character moments between some characters, but it was so few and far between that I just couldn't really get into the characters or to the story itself at times. Like, I appreciate the action sequences and stuff like that, but I wanted this movie to have a bit more substance to the plot and a bit more substance to the characters themselves. So overall, I give Mortal Kombat a watch it. Despite the fact that the characters weren't that well developed in this movie and that the story felt a bit empty in some places, I did appreciate the fact that this movie was trying to be faithful to the games as much as they can, and I like the fact that there's a lot of great action sequences throughout this film and a lot of gory violence throughout this film that made me gain a bit of an interest with the franchise over the years. But yeah, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you might enjoy this movie, but if you're looking for a movie with more substance to it, this movie doesn't have a lot of substance to the plot other than the main characters are fighting each other. So that's my review on Mortal Kombat, and tell me in the comments down below, have you seen Mortal Kombat? And if you have, did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? And what's your favorite video game movie? Please feel free to tell me in the comments down below. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you guys later.